Hey everyone, me Kevin here with an update on the fourth stimulus check. We're also going to talk about unemployment and the child tax credit. Let's get right into it. So let's get this out of the way. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce says, quote, the worker shortage is real and it's getting worse and worse by the day. We've heard plenty of anecdotes about this though, not so notable to talk about, but what is interesting is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce actually has a recommended solution called the America Works Initiative, which to me seems like the perfect copy of the America Works jobs program from House of Cards. But the point is, America needs people back to work, and there are a lot of issues with folks going back to work. Most importantly, because A, a lot of schools aren't open yet. B, people don't want COVID, and a lot of people are not convinced yet to take the vaccine. And C, even if schools were open and people were okay with COVID considerations, there's still a lack of affordable childcare in this country. So we have some big issues. To try to solve some of the affordability issues in the country, we know that Joe Biden and Democrats are trying to get a $2 trillion infrastructure and social infrastructure spending package passed. Republicans are stuck, of course, at a much smaller number, one that is actually less than 1/4 of the size. It is about $928 billion, and negotiations are currently underway. Now, Democrats are threatening that, hey, look, if we don't come to a conclusion within the next week, some kind of compromise within the next week, then Democrats say they'll just move ahead on their own infrastructure package without Republicans. In other words, we gave you a chance, you didn't decide to come with us, so we're going to go ahead on our own. Problem with this is Republicans won't work with Democrats if Democrats make any changes to the 2017 tax cuts or other tax changes like removing the 1031 exchange for real estate or the stepped up tax basis. These are really big issues. On top of that, Republicans don't like spending a lot of money, whereas Democrats say, no, we need to invest in our society to get people back to work so that we actually have open and clean schools, so that we have equality in our country, so that we have support for childcare programs in our country. Well, this is, of course, classic Congress. Now, Democrats do believe that, hey, no problem, we'll just go with budget reconciliation, and we'll do as much as we possibly can to get this budget done and the infrastructure package done through budget reconciliation. However, we still have moderate Democrats like Joe Manchin saying, not so fast. I'm going to need a lot of convincing. Now, eyeballs are still on Joe Manchin, but so far we still don't have an update on whether or not Joe Manchin could potentially be swayed. Now, usually in politics, there's a way to sway people. It usually has to do with a lot of money going to people's states or districts, so we'll see what Joe Manchin ends up debating for. Who knows? We'll see. But right now, no progress on Joe Manchin. And instead, we are at a stalemate in Congress on the infrastructure package. Now, it's worth noting that at the same time this debate is going on and folks are having issues getting their children back to school safely, and 76% of surveyed economists report that businesses they're working with find it difficult or very difficult to find workers. We have states like Texas, Florida, and a total of 24 Republican-led states throughout the country ending jobless benefits throughout the months of June and July to try to encourage people to go back to work. Now, again, folks who are receiving unemployment say, look, you can't just take away our support. You've got to actually provide quality childcare at an affordable price after we've just been destroyed, and now we don't have anybody taking care of our children, while at the same time, we want to make sure that we are able to go back to school safely. Now, I'm sure things like this can be balanced, so hopefully Congress would actually negotiate on childcare and making it feasible for folks to go back to work. But so far, the debate is Republicans only want roads, bridges, railway, waterway, and broadband work in their infrastructure package, traditional physical infrastructure. And Democrats say, well, what about social? To which Republicans say, no, thank you. That, unfortunately, includes a big no thank you to childcare, at least for the time being. But all hope is not lost. Remember, we're still getting a child tax credit. A child tax credit will offer up to $300 for children under 6 and up to $250 for children 17 and younger throughout 2021 on a monthly basis. This is so that we can access half of the child tax credit on a monthly basis, and the rest will be claimable on our 2020 tax return for a full full set of $3,600 for children under 6 and $3,000 for children 17 and younger. Children included will be any children who turn 17 in 2021, and since the child tax credit will not require any kind of income, you can actually get a refund and get this installment, a payment, even if you're not making money or filing taxes. However, you would have to file your tax return to get your second half. Now, starting July 15th through the end of the year, families will be claiming that child tax credit, and 80% of families will receive their money direct deposited into the same account they told the IRS to use for their 2020 tax refund, which is probably the same place that you got your stimulus check. If you didn't select direct deposit when you filed your 2020 taxes, you'll end up getting either a paper check or a debit card. Now, the IRS does urge people to file their taxes, especially if you have children, as soon as possible to make sure that you're eligible for the appropriate amount of the child tax credit. Keep in mind, we do also have a child independent tax credit worth up to $1,600. This means people can be eligible to receive up to 50% of what they spend back as a tax credit. The amount you'll be able to claim will be $8,000 for one dependent or $16,000 for two or more dependents. And this makes it very important that you collect your receipts and monetary proof to make sure that you can actually claim these tax credits. Now, keep in mind, that's up to $16,000 in expenses that you can claim, which means you would get $8,000, or you could claim up to $8,000 in expenses for one dependent, which could be an adult dependent or a child dependent, and you would get about $4,000 in savings. So that's very, very important. It's a 50% tax credit. So of what you spend, you get 50%. If you have 5 dependents and you spend 12 grand, you get 50% of that 12 grand that you document, which is 6 grand. Now, it's also important to consider what qualifies and what doesn't qualify. For things that do qualify, we have daycare expenses before and after school programs, day camp, transportation to and from care providers, babysitters, nannies, and housekeepers. What does not qualify would be your spouse, your dependent's parents, your children, and babysitters paid under the table. In other words, not taxed babysitters. So those are important things to consider and keep in mind. Now, what about the stimulus check? So here's the scoop. We have a lot of action going on and a lot of activism going on regarding the fourth stimulus check. In fact, right now, if you go to metkevin.com/2K, it's metkevin.com/2K, you can sign a petition. The petition is $2,000 per month for every American. We already have over 2.2 million Americans who have signed this. Now, last year when we did the petitions, they weren't really successful. The petitions themselves never really got answered by the White House or the government. But something to consider is when we have these petitions, they do get media attention, and that media attention tends to get in front of Congress. So remember, what you want to do, and I've got it written down here, what you want to do is you want to go to metkevin.com/2K. All it is a redirect, and it's going to send you to that change.org petition. So that way, if you want to sign that petition, you can do so. But keep this in mind, right now, neither the American Jobs nor the Families Plan includes any form of a stimulus check. This obviously comes to, well, the downside of many Americans whom the recovery has not reached yet. Remember that a lot of us, when we got our first stimulus check, we spent 74% of it on household goods just to get by. Well, the second and third stimulus check, 50% of us use that money to pay off debt. And this has led Republicans to say, we probably can't get another fourth stimulus check. Now, maybe Democrats could get pressure to do it on their own, but so far, all we have from Republicans is McConnell saying, quote, "I can't imagine the economy is going to need a fourth round of stimulus checks." And we have Democrats, many of them pushing for a fourth stimulus check, but so far, Joe Biden has kind of been ignoring the calls on it. So this gives us a full update on the state of not just workers, but also the child tax credit, the dependent tax credit, and the fourth stimulus check. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing. Remember, when you hit subscribe, you send me a notification that you like this kind of content and that you want more of it. Thank you so much for watching the video, and folks, we'll see you in the next one.